Thank you all for joining us today for the Geek and Drink podcast where we talk about nerdy, geeky business and drink delicious, delicious beers. Today we're drinking a Goose Island 4-pack, and it is quite smooth. Today I'm joined by Adam Modero, future park board leader, and Justin Pash. We are talking presidents today, since recently our 45th president, Donald Trump, was inaugurated on Friday. We thought it would be good to start discussing pop culture presidents and how they would measure up against one another. And so we're just going to start it off right now with our first president, our first archetype, if you will. Harrison Ford, our Washington archetype, as James Marshall in the film Air Force One. So, Adam, tell me what you think about Harrison Ford as a president.
Well, Harrison Ford as a president on his own would be amazing, but in this film in particular, he shows military background and a willingness to go in without question, right or wrong, and take charge. One man against all manner of forces,
Including Gary Oldman.
including the terrifying Gary Oldman.
Not an easy task.
Including hot wiring Air Force One with a butter knife, taking out. I think it ranked up in the hundreds of random terrorists that found their way down to the cargo station of Air Force One. He was a man with very few resources, operating on the principle that, of course, he was going to win because he's the president.
Shit needed to get done.
This is his plane. And that, in many ways, is how Washington operated when he was doing his thing. Most historians can't, to this day, figure out why he won anything, why he was successful at anything.
He won
By
literally all the time, just by sheer will, like, I'm going to tear it apart.
Because that's what I do.
That's
Yeah.
what I do. Exactly.
There was no reason for Washington to be as successful as he was. But he told people on numerous occasions, it's all right, I can't die, we'll just figure this out. And we can't prove him wrong. It turns out
Washington basically, he didn't even want to be president, but it needed to be done, so he said, all right. And he took on the task.
Right.
And that's what you're saying is Harrison Ford,
There's
James Marshall in Air Force One is that take charge president.
There's a similar single-minded determination with President Marshall and Air Force One that continuously moves the plot forward and succeeds where no man really has any business succeeding, but we all know how the story ends.
Takes Gary Oldman and kicks him out of the plane at 50,000 feet.
Right. Well, I think what you're seeing here, I mean, of course, Harrison Ford is going to be your Washington, because if you look at the plane as if it's America, Washington was in control, and he was going to eliminate the threat, and the threat being, the English, which in this case is Gary Oldman.
And the Russians. Yeah. I mean, not only that, but he was a president, Marshall, that is, that he's a quick thinker. He's like John McClane or MacGyver if he was your president.
Definitely a MacGyver type of character. Well, Adam spoke on using a butter knife to hot
But
wire
also,
the plane.
he sends the escape pod out to make them think that the president is no longer on the plane, yet he's still there, sneaking through elevator shafts, crawling through the luggage compartments and all that stuff, trying to find a way just to get the upper hand.
Clearly something we would see Washington do if he, in fact, ever saw a plane and didn't flip his shit. Because
Oh, yeah,
planes-
no, yeah.
If
Right.
I feel like Washington would see it and go, "Oh, that's a cute little toy."
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing you see there, that take charge attitude that Washington had and that James Marshall has when defending his country and making sure they get the hell off of his plane. I mean, that's the same person. That's the
Sure,
same person.
absolutely.
And that's the kind of determination you need if you're going to lead a country, and especially if you're going to be the first leader of a country. I mean, nobody had tested those waters, just like nobody had saved Air Force One while being the President of the United States of America.
This leads us on to our next president, I think, and a different archetype, a much softer spoken type of president, and that would be Morgan Freeman in Deep Impact as President Beck. And he's almost like your FDR. He's your cool, calm, fatherly, everything's going to be all right president.
And they both have polio.
Well, maybe.
Probably. Probably not. Right. No. The whole premise of this one was FDR was famous for his fireside chats. In the brink of Armageddon, he, by simply speaking to the people, calmed an entire nation. Who could do that besides Morgan Freeman?
Right. I mean, he basically does the same thing in the wake of an Armageddon, a giant meteor heading for Earth, and there is nothing that anyone can do to stop it. Morgan Freeman gets on TV and he tells everybody, you know what? It's gonna be okay. Even though it's not.
He's a liar.
He's a liar.
He's a liar, but nobody
you believe
cares.
him.
Nobody cares. It's Morgan Freeman. Let's just let him talk, man.
I know.
Right. It's a comforting idea. I mean, you talk about leading a country out of a depression. Think of a depression that a giant meteor would leave.
It would leave an impression.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yes,
Sizable.
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 Yes, indeed.
Yeah, the idea that it's comforting to listen to the man speak, just as, you trust in FDR.
Yeah.
You trust him to do the right thing. And you have to admit, someone like Morgan Freeman, who's appeared in so many different films as a member of the White House, whether he be, a press secretary or a president, he spent as much time in the White House on film as FDR actually spent in the White House.
Oh yeah, he's been the president. He's been acting president when he was in Olympus Has Fallen and London Has Fallen because Aaron Eckhart just can't stay out of trouble. But on top of that, he's played a world leader. He's played Nelson Mandela. He's played the leader of the CIA in The Sum of All Fears, I think.
Yes.
And then to top it all off, the man played God. All right.
Fair point.
If there's a calming voice out there who's going to lead you through the dark times, just like in FDR, it's Morgan Freeman. In Deep Impact, he's going to make you feel like everything's all right.
And not only is it calming, but they give the impression of intelligence or a plan is had.
Yes, a man with a plan, no doubt about it.
They are there, they are prepared, and they're just nice to listen to.
And not only that, but I mean, the idea that FDR was so concerned with the well-being of the people. His first and foremost duty as president was to make sure that the American people were taken care of. I think that's what you're looking for in a president.
Not only do you want to, of course you want to trust your president. And who do you trust most? The voice of Morgan Freeman? Of course. You listen when Morgan Freeman speaks. Why do you think the guy has more voiceover work than any other actor in history?
Right.
But you also listen to a man in a wheelchair. Because that guy knows the most efficient way to do things. You know what I mean? If you're in a wheelchair, you're going to figure out the easiest way to get the job done.
Right. True story.
Absolutely. Literally no obstacle.
All right. Anyway, I think it's time to move on to our next presidential archetype. We need to discuss the dirty president, the at all costs type president, and I think that's best shown through Kevin Spacey in House of Cards as Francis Underwood. He's your Nixon. He's your Andrew Jackson. He's gonna take the bull by the horns and he's gonna make it happen at all costs, whether that is in the right way or in the wrong way more often than not.
I do very much appreciate that you started this one with our dirty president, and we're correlating to Nixon, who was notoriously sweaty and gross.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
That tickles me.
Well, when he side note, when he first debated Kennedy, it was the first that was ever broadcast on TV,
right.
And Kennedy was just a model with hair and poise, and Nixon was just a sweaty, goopy makeup mess. I mean, he was falling apart on TV. So I mean, yes, he was physically dirty, and also, I guess,
Dirty to his soul.
dirty to his soul. Yeah. But Adam, why is this this a presidential archetype? Why is this presidential archetype a valid discussion today?
Well, to be fair, I feel like with enough finagling, you could work any president into this archetype, any real life president. To be president, to even seek the office of presidency, you have to be a psycho. I mean, you have to be out of your goddamn mind. And so I think every president is going to have this to some degree. It's just most emblematic in characters like Nixon, where it was, we all knew he was doing stuff he really shouldn't be. We all knew there was all kinds of under the table dealings going on, but we somehow let it go for almost a full 2 terms. That one's on us. That's really on us for letting it happen. But every president is going to have this kind of vicious mastermind quality to them, and it's just Nixon's the easy one to pick on because we kicked him out and now he's dead.
Because we caught him.
Because we caught him.
He got caught.
him.
Yeah.
He wasn't
We got
smart
him.
enough. That's right.
We got him
and-
on tape.
I was gonna say, and
He got himself on tape.
Frank Underwood, Kevin Spacey's character, has not been caught yet, from what I understand.
Well, they've got
as
more
well.
seasons.
There's more seasons.
more
to go.
seasons to come.
I mean, you know, is he set up to be that type of president that gets caught? I think so. I mean, that's the natural progression, and that's the correlation that we're looking at today. Is that there's only so much dirt you can get away with as a president before it all falls apart.
Now, I have not watched any House of Cards. I've heard great things. But do you think that's what they're setting it up for? Do you think that's their goal? Or do you think they will fuel that desire to see the underbelly of society by letting them get away with something?
Well, see, I think that's the way it is in both the production of this television show as well as the production of real life. Is that in our current society, people not only want to see the rise, but the fall. You know what I mean? And I think that's the big correlation between this real life character and this fictional character, and the idea that comes around the presidency is that you're under a microscope, and eventually you're going to be seen for who you are. Who you are is going to be out there for the world to view, and whether you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing, eventually all the cards are going to fall. Pun, right?
I think
It's almost like they planned that.
Just like with the show House of Cards, the real presidency, the only time you're really going to see the true ugliness, the true dirtiness, is when viewership starts to drop.
Right.
Then we've got to throw something out there, a tasty tidbit for the people to get riled up about. For me, if there's one idea that connects these two characters of Francis Underwood and Nixon, it's unbridled, insane, egomaniacal mindsets.
Yeah.
These are such egomaniacs that despite, it's not even that they understand they're doing the wrong thing. It's that they will do whatever it takes to do what they think is the right thing, which is almost more frightening, is not
Right.
being able to understand right from wrong.
We talked about the determination of Harrison Ford / George Washington.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost the same thing with a slightly different target.
It's
Sure,
it's that almost that double-edged sword.
Yeah,
It can
yeah.
either be for the good of the people or for
Instead
the,
of a crazy
the good
tenacity,
of the man.
Instead of a crazy tenacity, you just have an unchecked ego.
Right, and I mean, it also should be, Kevin Spacey, this man who plays Frank Underwood, has also played Nixon, and so you see these qualities.
That's a solid point.
You know what I mean? He's played
And Lex
both.
Luthor.
And Lex
Lex
Luthor.
Luthor.
I mean, Kevin Spacey.
Supervillain upon. So what you're saying is the
And a
real
serial
enemy
killer in
today
Seven. So
is Kevin Spacey.
Kevin Spacey.
The sooner we can take out Kevin
we
Spacey,
need to take out the space.
The sooner we need to take out the space.
Take out the
Hashtag
space.
take out the space.
Hashtag.
it'll never
Don't
happen.
don't do that.
Because we want our films to be great.
That's true.
Exactly.
We are not liable for any harm that may or may not befall Sir Kevin
Ke-
Spacey.
Kevin Spacey.
I've decided to knight him.
Well,
Because
yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
authority
Right,
today.
yes.
Today only.
All right, so we've talked about the dirty underbelly of the presidency. Now let's top this all off, and we're going to discuss the righteous president, that archetype of the man who is not just the office, but he is the people.
Okay.
Right? He speaks for what is right, and he has an eloquence to him, but an approachability. And I think that's perfectly exemplified with Martin Sheen as Josiah Bartlett on The West Wing, and he's your Lincoln. You know what I mean? He's got this folksy identity about him. He is a man of what is right. You know what I mean? It's that kind of idea. I mean,
He's going to be on the right side of history.
exactly.
He's going to do what's right for the people, whether it's the popular idea at the time or not. He's looking at the long haul.
Right, and I mean, so Adam, what is this? What is this Lincoln archetype? Who's this man that we're looking at here?
Well, that's that's one of the hardest things to talk about is because Lincoln is Lincoln is everyone's hero because he was, like you say, such a man of the people, but he really fits into all of these categories to some degree or another. He was a warrior. He was a man of action in some point. He was clearly the smart, calm, collected, soothing voice. He was a little underhanded, if you want to be honest about it.
Doing the things he thought were right.
Exactly, but it was all for, as you're talking about, pushing forward what he knew was right across time, knowing what would be right for the future of the country, not the present popularity of the country.
He was also a lover of theater.
Well,
up until the end.
To be fair, aren't we all? Until we see that one show that just
Yeah.
it kills
that one
us.
show. I've seen shows where I wish there was an assassin in the audience.
So many. That's probably good a time as any to mention that we are broadcasting from a theater.
Oh yeah, if you're wondering what that lovely warm echo is, it's
ghosts.
It's ghosts. That's
It's
right.
ghosts because
No, it's the back of the Winneshiek Theater here, which may be a bit uncouth when
Yeah.
discussing Lincoln, but you know what? But
knowing Lincoln, he would give the theater a second chance.
He would.
that's
He
right.
would. It wasn't the theater's fault. All actors are crazy. All actors are psychopaths, just like presidents, which I guess means all presidents are actors.
In some way, oh, what a
Chin
correlation. Yes, but with this Lincoln archetype, he's a man who is going to make things happen, but it's going to be in a way that you might not have seen coming. Like, you don't know what's happening until after it's over.
Okay.
That you're in control the whole time, but he's pulling the string.
He's a salesman.
He's a salesman.
So much like House of Cards, I have not seen any of The West Wing because apparently I don't like watching fictional presidents. But
I'm glad we included you on the conversation.
yes. That's why I'm here. But you just reminded me of something. I was reading through some old Lincoln letters. Yes, that's what I do in my free time. And in a lot of his handwritten letters, he actually wrote on them "top secret" or "for your eyes only," like an old James Bond thing. And it's a lot of these like secret codes, not codes, but messages. And they're just common letters, but it's almost making the recipient feel very special. It's here, I've done this specifically for you, and that's clearly a formality. He's the president. People are going to check his mail, people like it's a piece of paper. I can easily.
You're not going
read
to throw it
this.
on
I
the
can
counter
easily-
and say,
but
I'll
also-
get to it next week.
No.
Right, if
And-
it's from the president, and that's the thing. I think that's the correlation, especially between these two. Martin Sheen as Josiah Bartlett in The West Wing. He was a step ahead. He was a tactician. He was making sure that you felt as though you were a part of the discussion, even though the decision had been made.
He was directing with his
You know,
hands.
sure.
But, well, I feel like, along with the folk charm, being a president of the people type of idea, to me, the biggest correlation, Lincoln being arguably one of the most popular presidents. Martin Sheen is arguably the most popular Sheen.
I think pretty easy argument to make. Absolutely, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Lincoln too had some sons he was very disappointed in, mostly because they died.
Right.
But sure.
but,
One a
whether
lot
you
sooner
kill
than
your
the other, but
career
yeah.
or you actually physically die, it's a disappointment to a father.
Absolutely.
You know? It hurts.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, but
Deep down in your soul.
yeah, I mean, being a president of the people, I think really you can draw that parallel to almost any popular Hollywood archetype of a president. You want someone who speaks
Right.
for their nation.
That's
I mean,
their goal.
Well, yeah, you
anyway,
need,
yeah.
for the most part, you need somebody that you would believe had a reason to be voted into the office. Like you don't want to just have, them hand you a guy and say, oh yeah, he's totally the president, and then you watch him and then think, oh, well,
be disappointed.
and be
Who
disappointed.
would want that? to happen?
who would vote for that guy?
Right.
Well, here's an interesting thing. We keep talking about a man of the people, a president of the people, a president elected by the people. And we talk about Lincoln as the calm, careful, diligent, intelligent president. Andrew Jackson, one of our most violent, if not the most violent president we've ever had, was our first popularly elected president.
Oh, yeah.
He was the president of the people, right or wrong. So
Well, to be fair, it was a violent
Well,
group of people. So.
Well, I was going to say,
So-
the people who counted at the time, there were a lot of other people
Well,
who
fair.
you didn't get to vote, but,
So what we're saying is the president is always a reflection of the people that elect him.
yeah.
I wonder if any
would-
of our Hollywood presidents got in office off of the electoral college vote, or do you think they actually won?
That
the
would be an
popular vote?
interesting.
Okay, so like
I mean, do you think any of them had
like
like maybe 2 million votes that were against them, but still made it into office? Do you think that's a possibility?
you know?
And of those, who in that list do you think that would have happened to?
I would say that if anybody was going to win, by using the power of the electoral college over the power of the people, I would say Kevin Spacey as Frank Underwood.
it seems like a technicality he
He's
would-
not.
Yeah.
He's not going to get all the votes, but he's going to get the votes that he needs.
He's going to find a way to make
Right.
it work for him. See,
Exactly.
I'm going to say Harrison Ford because of his parallel to Washington. And the fact that even when the odds are against him, much like myself, there's no understanding of math and odds.
I
Never
honestly,
tell me the odds.
Yeah.
If you want a president, you want a scruffy-looking nerve herder.
Absolutely, every single time.
Every time. I honestly, I think Harrison Ford as James Marshall is one of those presidents that wins in a landslide. I think.
Well,
Especially after you kick terrorists off your plane.
Even before that.
I'm not saying he's going to have any problem with a second term.
No.
None whatsoever.
Not after that. I mean, he brought Russian radicals to their knees, literally. And so I mean,
rather than being on your knees in front of Russian radicals.
well, nobody
Yeah.
wants that.
I had that weekend. That was rough.
But I do hear that's a way to win the presidency.
Yes.
All right. So now that we've discussed these four types of
So
presidents,
we've got our action hero.
we've got our action hero.
our smart, calm man with a plan.
Correct.
Our vicious, seedy,
Maniacal president.
under
yeah.
the table supervillain level president, and then our Lincoln. Because how else do you describe Lincoln other than Lincoln?
We have
Right. We have these four fictional presidents, and their four or so real life counterparts. Now, let's discuss what's going to take one over top of the other. We're going to introduce, an inciting action, something that.
So there's a scenario that comes.
There's
down.
a scenario that that comes along, and we need to who's going to come out on top of the rest. And I think that most likely scenario, and if we're sticking to the idea of pop culture and just geeking and drinking, First Contact. What president
With a woman?
No, what
Kevin Spacey.
Kevin Spacey, all the way.
He's smooth talking.
Yeah.
He's got that.
To be fair, Harrison Ford.
Oh,
Oh,
Sheen.
clearly.
Just the name Sheen. I mean, come on.
He has tiger blood.
Tiger blood.
No, which president is going to handle the idea of first contact, aliens from extraterrestrial life? Who's handling it the best?
This is a movie scenario I have seen. This is something that could happen.
Yeah, it did not
The
end
movies
well.
told me it could happen, therefore.
It did not end well for Bill Pullman, but
Who didn't make the list? Sorry, Bill.
sorry.
Yeah.
Adam,
That's all I know.
who's your president, and why is he?
Well, I gotta break them down by why I think they would fail. I feel.
All right.
So our Kevin Spacey, vicious, under the table kind of president, he would sell us off as slaves, I think. Like whatever he could make as a
He's
profit,
gonna make the dirty deal.
He's gonna be like, okay, so here's all my friends, my cohorts, my buddies, the guys I owe a favor to. We're all gonna be saved, but then I've got like
But you can
six
use
other
all
billion
of
people,
these billion people as
pets,
fuel.
slaves,
Right.
food, whatever you need. I've got 6 billion of them for you. Go crazy.
To be fair, I kind of feel like that's how I'm being used now.
Fair.
Being used as food
Or a pet.
or a pet.
Or fuel.
That's marriage.
I hope tonight's pet night.
Our smart, calm FDR, Obama, Morgan Freeman esque president. As much as I want to say that would be a great choice, the whole point of that character was, guys, everything's exploding, but it's gonna be okay. Just go to sleep. Listen to
I
the
think
velvety sounds of my voice.
He almost is used as a puppet by the alien overlords to make you think everything's okay while you don't really know how the sausage is being made.
Absolutely. They're gonna let him lull you into a sense of security, and then they're gonna take over.
Just silently take over.
Absolutely. They wouldn't even have to do a whole lot of work. Morgan Freeman's gonna do half of it for him. Martin Sheen, our Lincoln corollary. I have to say, I just don't think that's gonna be so impressive to the invaders. As someone who is often on the low end of the dominance totem pole, intelligence and wit and folksy connectivity to the people does not give you much leeway when it comes to a dominating force.
Aliens aren't as folksy.
They do not care that you are a man of the people.
They're not going to listen to your yarn that you.
They will not. They will
All
not
right.
let me be nearly as long-winded as I am right now. So I have to give it to our Harrison Ford, George Washington. I'm going to make this work. I can't die, and because I said it, I won't. Because by that math alone, there's going to be at least one human survivor, and that's really all we can hope for in an alien invasion.
If there's one man that can avoid alien invasion, it's a man who has come face to face with the hut and walked away.
Walked right over his tail.
Right.
Well, while I can appreciate that idea, we're not talking about, Star Wars. We're not talking about that character. We're talking about James Marshall. And if an alien overlord comes, I hope the president doesn't show up with a butter knife.
So you don't think that
But that's all
a
he
man
would need.
You don't think a
You know what?
man?
I can totally appreciate the against all odds type of thing, but this is a threat unknown to man on Earth.
So you think that a man who can take back Air Force One is not the same man who would take back a Millennium Falcon?
We're not talking about, Russian terrorists on an airplane. First of all, how'd they get on the plane, you nincompoop?
That's on the security guys.
I was gonna say they
We know how they got on
it
the
was
plane. I'm
Craigslist.
just saying, come on. Let's let's get some
They got
qualified people.
they
that
got a
help you out.
Groupon for Air
You're
Force
exactly
One.
right.
No, for me,
The media.
any of these Hollywood presidents and their actual president counterpart who rely on trust, who rely on strength of character, who rely on their leadership abilities, those people are fools when it comes to dealing with an unknown race that wants to enslave you. For that reason alone, I'm going to have to go with the Kevin Spacey character. I'm going to have to go with the one that's willing to lie, cheat, and steal. Because this is an unknown force that you're dealing with. I mean, you can't reason with them. You have to outsmart them. And how do you trick a trickster? You know what I mean? You're not going to do it by being honest. You're not going to be the honest Abe in this situation. You're not going to do it by being Washington and leading the charge against what? Against technologies that you can't even fathom?
So,
So
if
for
there's-
me, and you're not going to do it in a wheelchair. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, FDR. You're not going to do it. Okay?
All right, so what you're saying is that the man who is going to take on unknown powered alien.
He's going to have to be a lying shithead, do anything,
So
sweat
you're-
bag,
so a
of
Kevin-
a scummy president.
Lex Luthor as a president.
Lex Luthor has dealt with alien forces and had the upper hand on several occasions. Again, I don't want to look to other films. I didn't accept the idea of Harrison Ford in Star Wars is taking on an alien force, because if that were the course, of course, he would step in the Millennium Falcon and take care of business. But we're talking about Air Force One, not the Millennium Falcon, and we're talking about the presidents, not Han Solo.
Okay.
Fair enough.
All right. You know what? I want to say, I agree with both sides of things, but honestly, I want a president who looks in the face of adversity, who looks in the face of almost an unwinnable situation, and is going to not only inspire the people, but also make that force feel as though we are up to the challenge. We're up to take you on. And I think that president for me is Morgan Freeman
Okay.
as President Beck in Deep Impact. He's the only president on this list who's actually taking on something that's coming from beyond our reaches. All right?
Okay.
He's
Solid
taking
point,
he's
solid
A
taking
threat from space.
a
well,
threat from
yeah.
space.
Nice.
I agree.
Okay,
Corollary, yeah,
and
sure.
I think that's what he's doing. He's not lulling the people. He's not a puppet. What he is he's saying, you know what? We can rise to the occasion. Everything's going to be all right, and we're going to blow this, mother up. We're gonna.
Well, I did not
tear it
consider,
apart.
like you did, the ability to rally the troops to get
Exactly.
to get your people excited, and I can appreciate that for sure.
If you're going to take on what is a seemingly unstoppable unknown force, you need to be able to have everybody believe, you know what? If we work together, we can do it. That's a hope and a change that you can believe in.
I will say after you put your argument forth, if anyone were to tell me we're going to go fight aliens, to me it would have to be Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman tells me that, I'm going to listen.
I still say he's a soothing volume of a voice. Harrison Ford all the way.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone, for listening. What president didn't we mention? What president do you think is worthy of a spot on this list?
What Hollywood president? did
What
we
Hollywood
cover?
president?
Yeah.
What real life president? I mean, how do you think Polk is gonna measure up against aliens? Tell us in the comments.
He would get it done in time for a nap.
Time for a nap.
I'll tell you what we did cover, and that was all the selections in this variety pack of IPA to winter ale to Our Stars Pilsners of Goose Island.
A delicious
beer.
American beer for a delicious American discussion. All right, thank you all.
What's the name of the podcast?
This is the Geek and Drink podcast. Thank you all for listening. I've
Yes.
been Joe Schemmel, Adam Matero,
He's
Justin
the geek
Pash.
of the group.
We're the drinkers.
That's right.